Hello, my name is Michael Valentino. I'm a 7th semester student of Petra Christian University under the International Business Management Program. Today I'll be presenting about the social media project assigned by Professor Dr. Casey Chan in order to reflect on what I've learned so far and what are my plans going forward. As I'm now currently finishing up my studies in this last 2 semesters, I'm now faced with a new challenge, which is how to apply what I have learned into the real business world. In order to do so, I must first identify what I know about myself and how to utilize what I've learned during my time in IBM for my future career plan. To outline this presentation, I will use the help of the action learning equation of holistic thinking developed by Professor Chan in order to provide a complete and structured analysis on this subject. Let us begin. Action learning is a project-based learning concept in which individuals can achieve an accelerated learning process from the completion of projects assigned to them. Moreover, action learning also promotes a continuous learning process as each project's outcome, whether good or bad, are evaluated and used as the input for future projects. These concepts of action learning can be summarized into the equation shown on the screen. To initiate the first stage, individuals must first ask themselves, "What do I know?" To identify what kind of information are available to ensure effective planning. Next is to ask, why do I need to learn this? To acknowledge the relevance and importance of the subject, which leads to an effective decision making. The next step is to ask who, how, and when in order to ensure an effective implementation process. After the project is done, then comes the lesson learned from the results. And this is when we ask the question, where did it go right and where did it go wrong? This information is then used for the last aspect of the action learning equation, which is to ask how much improvement can be made from prior information. And this will serve as an input for the next project, making the action learning equation a continuous process in the form of a closed loop. As now we are aware on the use of the action learning equation, let us see the application of this concept in the subject of identifying myself and creating my future career plan. Let us begin with the first part. What do I know? In this section, I will identify what I know about myself and my capabilities based on 3 main categories. First is individual competency, which will be explained using the Big 5 personality test, the learning style test, and the GET test. Next is team capacity, explained using Belbin's 9 team roles. And last is organizational capability, explained by using leadership self-assessment. Before we begin examining the test results, I will briefly explain the use of each test. First, the learning style test will help identify which type of learner I am and which method will produce the best learning results. Next, the Big 5 personality test identifies the area of my traits that are dominant and which area needs to be improved. The GET test assesses the enterprising behaviors or my entrepreneurship tendencies. The Belbin's 9 team roles test assesses what roles do I take in team activities. Last, the leadership self-assessment test identifies what type of leader I am by identifying my strong and weak points. Now, let's begin with the first test. The learning style test indicates that I am a reflector and a pragmatist. What this means is that as a reflector, I tend to think things through in detail before taking an action. Moreover, as a reflector, I also evaluate the results of my actions to improve on the future. The pragmatist side indicates that I like practical solutions to problems. This is true as I tend to find the simplest and most practical way in solving complex problems. Last, I also scored a decent 14 out of 20 on theorist. I believe that I also identify with the characteristics of a theorist as I am a perfectionist in my work, and I prefer a logical and sequential way of thinking in doing projects and problem solving. Now we move on to the GET test to identify my entrepreneurship tendencies. As we can see from the test result, I scored quite high on creative tendency and drive and determination. This is in line with my previous test as I tend to come up with a practical and non-traditional way of problem solving and project execution. I also have a high drive and determination as I believe in hard work as the most important foundation for success. Moving on to the Big 5 personality test. In this test, I scored high on conscientiousness and openness to experience. A high score in conscientiousness indicates a hardworking and honest personality, which is in line with the previous test. Openness to experience indicates that I am a forward-looking individual that seeks new experiences. The one thing that I would need to work on is the neuroticism aspect, as it indicates that I have a tendency of being emotional, which I will need to work on as I become more mature in the future. After completing the 3 tests for individual competency, we now move on for the test for team capacity using Belpin's 9 team roles. The test result shows that I am an implementer, shaper, and evaluator. This is in line with my previous experiences when working in teams, in which I shape the flow of discussion and form a clear understanding of the expectations of the output. I would then implement this consensus and end by evaluating the final output to ensure that the task is performed how it is supposed to. This shows how I prefer to work in logical sequence from the start until the finish. This result is confirmed by the next and final test, which is the leadership assessment test. The leadership assessment test indicates that as a leader, I have the tendency to set the direction, align people, and lead teams. This is in line with the previous results on having a start-to-finish approach in executing projects. This test, however, also indicates that I still have to work on certain aspects of leadership, such as building relationships, communicating, and facilitating ethical conduct. By understanding the results of these tests, I aspire to become more than just a capable individual, which is what I am currently as a student. In the future, through the right planning and execution of my career, I aspire to become a top-level human capital which will serve as a valuable change agent for the company I'm working for. After completing the 5 tests, I concluded my assessment by identifying 4 key attributes which represents me as an individual. After narrowing down 112 lists of attributes, I selected 4 key attributes which are logical, adaptable, result-oriented, and self-confident. After identifying what I know about myself, the next step is to understand why I need to know these things. We will be able to do this by answering the 5 whys based on each of the 5 tests that we did previously. The first one is, why do I need to know my personality? This is so that I can better understand myself and to serve as foundation for subsequent future plans and decisions. Next is, why do I need to know my learning styles? This is to understand the best method of learning for accelerated results. And next is, why do I need to know my roles in a team? This is so that I can be an effective contributor once I enter the real working world. And next is, why do I need to know my leadership styles? This is so that I know my strengths and weaknesses as a team leader and start improving it as my career develops. And last, why do I need to know my entrepreneurship tendency? This is so that I can assess my career potential in the next step as I plan to become an entrepreneur at a certain point in my life. After understanding the importance of the tests and the results that I got, the next step is to answer who I want to be, define how I can achieve it, and have a specific timeline for this plan. In relevance with the 4 key attributes I identified previously, as well as taking into consideration my strengths, weaknesses, and passion during my time in IBM program, I believe that I have a high career possibility in the field of finance, tax, and accounting. More specifically, I believe with my set of attributes, I can become a solid financial analyst as I have the ability to be logical in my decision making, have high attention for results, and I am confident in what I do. Moreover, I am adaptable and thus I believe that I can adapt to a lot of industries for this field. As a financial analyst, I will need to be able to produce financial plans, projections, and analytical reports for investment decisions. In order to achieve this goal, I will use the IPO model in which the output is the goal of becoming a financial analyst. In order to achieve this goal, I will need to have a plan as the input. First off, I start currently with having the intelligence, personality trait, and also interest in the field of finance. However, I will also need to have a certain level of knowledge and experience which can be achieved by getting a master's degree and a good working experience. By doing so, I will be able to have the right skills and apply it to my work and become a qualified financial analyst with the aspirations to one day become a CFO. In order to execute this plan, I have to be aware that and have the patience that learning and development will come with a process that requires the right amount of time and experience. Moreover, to ensure that I will be on track to achieve my goal, I will also have to monitor my progress by having a personal KPI for myself throughout the years. As a measurement for that KPI, I have to identify a timeline for myself as a short, medium, and long-term targets. This starts with the 1-year plan in which I plan to graduate and finish my internship with great evaluations so that I can be offered a permanent position in my current company. Next, in 3 years, I expect to have climbed to a managerial position in the company, and I will seek for sponsorship and scholarship opportunities for my master's degree in finance. In 5 years, after getting my master's degree, I will seek for overseas working opportunity to have that experience under my belt. And in 10 years, I aspire to have an executive position in the field of finance and starting up an independent business as an investment for my future retirement. The next step of the action learning equation is to acknowledge that despite having a meticulous plan, there are always possibility of it going wrong. This is why throughout the process of my career development, I will always have a backup plan if things do not go out as I envision. The last part of the action learning equation is identifying where I can improve myself. Since this is an assessment for a future career plan, the possible improvement will be based on my current competence and capabilities. In order to do so, we will use the help of the 6 thinking hats in which we view things from different perspectives, in which the white hat considers the facts, blue hat considers the big picture, green hat considers creativity and innovation, black hat considers the risk, red hat considers emotion, and yellow hat considers optimism. Additionally, these potential improvements will also be considered on the terms of the 6 powers of a human capital, consisting of stamina power, communicative power, expert power, adaptive power, response power, and execution power. First, the stamina power indicates that I have to be able to identify my true passion. This is so that I will have the ability to pursue my career in the long term. Next is to improve on my communicative power to be more clear, concise, complete, and convincing. Followed by the expert power by continuously improving on the knowledge, skills, and competence through working experience and further education. Next is to have the adaptive power to be able to survive in the dynamic business environment. Followed by having the appropriate response power to be able to anticipate and manage risk during the process. Last and most importantly, improving my execution power by continuously learning and improving myself through the projects that I do. In conclusion, I believe that having the appropriate career plan is important for all students, but more importantly, having the right mindset and structure in developing such plan is even more crucial. In this video, I used the help of the action learning equation to help me identify my competences and my passion in order for me to develop a timeline as well as a detailed plan in order for me to achieve my targets. The action learning concept is a powerful tool not only for individual analysis but also for other problem-solving situations. Throughout my 3 years in IBM, I am thankful for all the experiences and knowledge that I have gotten from my courses, organizational activities, but most importantly from the guidance and mentorship of Professor Dr. Casey Chan. All in all, I hope that this video can help other students in planning out their future careers. Moreover, I also hope that this video can provide some insight on the relevance of action learning and holistic thinking. Thank you.